All right, welcome everyone to, this is our last webinar for the year, Tim. So the very last one, we did have our changing face of SMSF in the last 24 hours, but our last session of 2023 is our Starter, Smarter, Smartest course update. And whilst we are talking about our courses today, I think what you'll come away with from today's session is this concept of Starter, Smarter, Smartest will and is already filtering through the way in which we're delivering education at Smarter SMSF. And a lot of this naturally has to do with Tim having come on board earlier in 2023 in the role of SMSF Technical and Education Manager. So you're going to hear a bit of both of us today as we sort of share some insights into how we are tackling education, and then naturally what we have been doing on a course content basis as well. So a little bit of background, because ultimately we've had what was previously known as our SMSF Foundations course available for some time. It is now been rebranded to SMSF Essentials, and we'll explain some of that. It'll become quite apparent shortly. But we've had some 400 students go through and enroll. I use the word enroll, Tim, rather than complete, because sometimes not everyone actually goes through and completes the course, but ultimately go through the platform to be able to grow their SMSF knowledge. And that's really what it's all about, using education in a deliverable and affordable way that can scale up and enable students, whether it's individually, within a team, or within a larger organization, to be able to do so. And not only have we had these through our own platform, but we've also had several hundred go through as part of our affiliated distribution. And a good example of that is the BGL Learning Channel. As I touched on at the very beginning, Tim has come on board into the Smarter SMSF role as our Head of Technical and Education. And as we kind of got comfortable, and Tim, I might get you to elaborate a little bit here as well, we started to identify ways in which we might structure the delivery of things. And I think our masterclass is one example of that, and also this concept of Starter, Smarter, Smartest as well.
Yeah, I guess the thing for me, Aaron, was coming on board and noting that the two of us have been doing SMSF education for a fairly significant portion of our lives. So we brought different experiences from the different delivery methods. And so, we wanted to have a look at the approach that we were taking here at Smarter SMSF, and basically give it a bit of a refresh and sort of how do people get the best bang for their buck from a CPD point of view, from a knowledge point of view, and how can we differentiate ourselves a little bit from a number of the other offerings out there in the marketplace.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. Is what then becomes a point of difference in what we do, and you can see here from our broader education matrix that we've now done, we've been very deliberate in terms of where we have positioned our content. And as we move forward into 2024 and beyond, we've really started to evaluate and therefore target how we're going to be delivering education within these three bands. So our starter, which naturally deals with those in their infancy of SMSF, 0 to 3 years. So your graduates, your admin staff, offshore teams is certainly growing in interest as well. Our intermediate, or our smarter sort of students. So again, 2 to 6 years, they might be a more senior accountant, a paraplanner, maybe a general practitioner. They kind of cover business services and SMSF. So it's really good in sort of refresher content. And then we naturally have our advanced, or our smartest individuals, and there we have things such as our master classes that we introduced throughout this financial year to enable people to get more, I guess, applied knowledge into real life scenarios, and then the relevant tools and stuff that support them from there. But what that has done it has ultimately transpired us moving from what was one course and evolving into, in essence, what will become 3 courses. And one of the very first things, Tim, I think that you said to me as you reviewed the SMSF original Foundations course was that it actually had a bit of a complex and in some respects could be somewhat confusing in the marketplace because, yes, there might have been some stuff at a foundational or fundamental level, but quite clearly there were elements in there that had grown over time that was well in advance of what we needed as well.
Yeah, and I think that was probably the thing, having delivered myself over time that real starter concept course for new entrants into the SMSF place, but also done a lot of accreditation under the guise of RG146 over my journey as well. I could see that what you'd created was really thorough, but it was almost too thorough in the sense that a lot of the terminology and a lot of the concepts were well beyond those that were needed at the sort of that foundation level. So that had a big part to play in going, well, let's really spread this out a bit.
Yeah, and ultimately we had already a marketplace for that, and I think that's represented by the nearly 400 people, like I said, that have gone through the course. And we do position that, in essence, in that RG146 replacement. We've got organisations that have our course as an option if they're looking to advise on SMSFs under an authorised representative authority, that they have the opportunity to go through and do that course as part of the requirements of the licensee. So we didn't want to kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater. And ultimately, Tim, one day you said to me, well, it's kind of got everything that you essentially need from an education front, that then came up with the idea of that Essentials course. So what we've done with that has ultimately gone through a repositioning in some of the content. We'll touch on that shortly. But it then opened up the notion, well, we actually need to peel some layers back out of this and come into a pure foundations course, as you'd sort of rightly indicated before.
Yeah, that's right. And so, you'll note there, and we'll talk about these things a little bit more in depth shortly, but it was at 21 hours, and we've sort of have peeled a bit of that back because we've taken some of that content and placed it firmly in the foundations course, but also a lot of that material which necessitates the foundation level still remains within the essentials, because you want it to be able to then use it as the progression as you sort of move towards the smarter space. So yeah, it's one of those areas that there's always crossover when you've got learning, and in this instance, it's a matter of trying to find that exact point where you go from, oh, okay, I get it, I get what this is all about now, and now I want and need to learn a bit more.
Yeah, and then as we move into 2024, we're naturally, again, as a fairly content-rich business in terms of training and education, will we then be looking at building out the advanced course, and that, again, there'll be a series of modules that come with that, that will be able to, in essence, support right through to specialisation, and then even looking at those as individual modules in addition to it as course content. So really, maybe contributions here as an example, Tim, might be, well, what is a contribution and what are the caps, into maybe dealing more around unused catch-up concessional contributions in the Smarter module, going through to, well, this is what CGT cap contributions look like when we get into the advanced course.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's that there is some sort of synergy between foundations right through to advanced, but then advanced takes you into the complex and into the stuff that you and I delve into on a fairly daily, regular basis.
Yep. So from the Essentials course, we have, as I said, a rebranded positioning, and we'll jump onto the landing page shortly here to show you. But in essence, we still have our 7 modules. We still have our 18 CPD hours. It is all self-paced, interactive e-learning. We do have an opportunity for you to utilize this as an ongoing resource. And by that, there is an add-on. So rather than just buying the course itself, you can purchase an add-on update so that when we make changes as we go along, you get the ability to tap into those. So one of the examples at the moment is within our tax module. Not only have we kind of recut that tax module to put contributions tax into the contributions module and member benefit payments into there, but we're now actually topping it up with our proposed Division 296 tax rules as well. So if you don't get that covered off within that 4-month period, the add-on allows you to, in essence, keep up to date. So when we update what has changed through that change log, then you can go back in and utilize that resource at any point in time. So we have been naturally updating these. We've said there 1st of July, some of these will naturally continue to be updated as we go along. Again, a good example is throughout the year, we did see changes to contributions at 1 January because of the downsizes. So we use things like our changing face of SMSF quarterly to go in and go, well, these are the things that are happening in the marketplace, but then what impact do these maybe have on the course itself to keep that course content up to date? And I'm going to show you something a little bit later, because what we are also doing some work on right now is introducing some AI into that course content, so that not only will you be able to look at the content online and download the workbooks, but you'll be able to use the AI engine here to get some more answers to help apply that learning to the relevant students. So you can see there who it's suitable for. We've been very clear then in the positioning around that. One of the things that we're pleased to announce today is that for someone who completes the SMSF Essentials course, we have arranged with the SMSF Association that an individual that successfully completes the course will be able to get a complimentary period of associate membership with the SMSF Association. So one of the things here, and I'll just jump over to the website to explain this a little bit further. But what you can see here, and we do have this on the Essentials website, is that students who complete the course would be eligible to claim their associate membership, which is available until the 31st of March of the following calendar year. So they're the anniversary stages. And then again, it takes you through to the SMSF Association website and gives you effectively that first year of membership free, and bringing people into a pathway, in essence, Tim, of becoming an SMSF specialist.
Yeah, well, that's right. And I think one of the things, if you scroll down a little bit on that that page there, Aaron, as you can see, the affiliate membership sort of really complements the work that we then do with regards to the technical support and the access to some of the library that the SMSF Association provides as well, which is really beneficial. I know that as a fellow member, which is a little bit removed from affiliate, it does require 15 years, but as a fellow member, you know, I still am regularly using the materials from the SMSF Association to keep myself up to date with stuff, and to check in every so often to see if that my understanding on certain matters is still the same. So I think it's a great opportunity and great to be partnering with the association to offer this membership opportunity for those that are signing up to our courses.
Yeah, so you can see here, and the reason why I think this fits so well is because quite clearly with our Essentials course, it is positioned into that kind of intermediate practitioner, those that are really looking to expand on the journey towards SMSF specialisation. But we also note that we need to accommodate for those that are entering the industry and others that work within the industry, and some sort of affiliate membership there would be relevant in that situation. So we actually, in both courses, have complimentary memberships available to utilize. They just differentiate based upon the type of student that is ultimately going to go through our course and the type of role that they would have in an organization. And then they may then go through and pursue from affiliate to associate, and then maybe from associate to specialist, or they may simply just remain inside that relevant tier that they would get the complimentary access to. So that is available. As I said, it covers the anniversary period. So those cycles run from the 1st of April to the 31st of March. So if someone completed the course, for example, during the Christmas break, and then they received their CPD certificate on the 3rd or 4th of January, let's say, and they then went in and applied for that membership, they would in essence get that membership through to the 31st of March 2025. So you do get that full year plus the little bit of extra just because of the membership cycle that exists there. Let's go back to our slides here. Actually, well, what I'll quickly say here is on the Essentials page, again, we've done some fairly substantial updates to this. You can find out more with the video we have there, the details of the course, all the details of our course outline that is downloadable, as we said. And then we've got a number of FAQs that are there to access as well, that we commonly see in discussions that we have with different individuals and businesses and larger organizations as well. So if we duck back now to our slides here, the other side of it is our SMSF Foundations course. So this is, as I mentioned, the repositioning of our starter process that introduces these broader concepts about superannuation to new entrants and the fundamentals. So this is 6 modules. Again, the principles of how we're delivering this is identical to the Essentials course, and we'll show you some of that as we jump into them. It is all interactive and validated learning. Again, we'll have the same sort of framework in here to be able to support the purchase and then for ongoing resourcing. But you can see in here the very distinct difference in terms of who that target audience actually is. And again, as I mentioned before, that affiliate membership that actually comes with that as well. So if we jump again back across to the website, the same sort of principles as you can see with our Essentials course, we've included in that. We will be, once we've finished off the last few modules here, that'll then be available to access. And again, a lot of that sort of technical understanding of how it's operating and what you can do and so forth with it is all now up and running on the website as well. And then the last piece to this is, of course, our advanced course. And again, this is something, as we mentioned earlier, is part of our early 2024 remit. I think that's probably the fair assessment, Tim. But again, these principles of delivery will be the same. The format will probably change again because, again, there is a level of implied knowledge through that particular process. So maybe, Tim, do you want to give a bit of an insight for our audience about how the advanced course might look a little bit different to the way in which we build this out when compared to, say, the Essentials and then the Foundations course?
Yeah, look, I think that probably for me, Aaron, the key about the advanced course, more so than the other two, is that that whilst the concept will be that it will be in course format, each subject matter will also be ultimately a standalone topic. So it will avail themselves, I think, more appropriately to the offerings for in-house training sessions and that as well, and standalone masterclass type arrangements, because it will certainly be more practically focused than sort of just wordsmith.
Yep.
And sort of knowledge dump. It'll really be a deep dive into a lot of these fairly significant subject matters that are ultimately exclusively dealt with in the SMSF space, albeit that they apply across the superannuation spectrum, but largely are only dealt with in the SMSF space. So it will be a real sort of deep dive into it with the capacity to do it standalone, but also, for those that really just want to like to read and dig into the technical resources, then that'll be available to them as well.
Yeah, so a good example there might be things like LRBA. So, we can see an entire module being built out on that topic. Now, yes, it will form part of a course, but ultimately we see that sort of module as being standalone and available to utilize in a CPD capacity as much as maybe in a course content that we'd have it at this sort of smarter level as well.
Yeah, and probably just to, again, just to highlight something like the investment restrictions, there's such great substance in various court cases that have occurred over time. But, when we address the learning process, we talk about financial assistance and the sole purpose test and these sorts of things in isolation, whereas, the opportunity through the advanced course is to identify, through real life case history and that, where people have gone wrong and how it can cross multiple areas of compliance. And so, it is that real sort of, I guess, high learning process.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, let's move on to having a look at the course content. So as I move across here, I'm going to close a couple of these things off. So the first thing that's worth noting is there's a couple of changes that we've made inside the learning platform here. One, of course, is that we have now centralized our courses onto a single landing page. So might just jump back across to here. So one of the things that we've deliberately done here is to set out the 3 different courses that we'll then have available to you. Okay, so access to this is done all through, I guess, post-purchase. So our like all aspects of our Smarter SMSF platform, the ability to log in here is all based upon getting access, login password, multi-factor authentication where it's appropriate, and then conditional upon the relevant tags that individuals have to be able to access the course. So anyone that is a pay-as-you-go individual can come in and, I guess, get to the site and have a look at things, but it will not allow you to, in essence, go in and access the content because it is all effectively locked down. But once you get into here, what you can see is the details of the Essentials course and then what makes up that particular course in its own right. And as you can see here, there are not only the modules that are attached to each of these, but then quizzes that come alongside each of these as well. So the idea is you would maybe work through from module 1 through to module 7. Doesn't mean that you have to. And then through the process of registration, we will then send you emails whether you either want to go at it alone for a period of 4 months with the access that you would have available, or we can kind of give you that little nudge in the back as you move along, just to make sure you're keeping up to date with what's happening. What I should say as well is you'll get a phone call. David Devine, who's our sales and development manager, he'll just make sure you've got access, you can log in, you're all good to go. He'll do a check-in to make sure, you know, if you haven't done anything, do you need any help to get you going, all those sorts of things. So you will hear from us as you go along. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time jumping through all of these. I'm just going to pick something out here to, in essence, show you the design of how these SMSF courses have been built. You will note here that the course does recognize the last stage of which an individual has been working on this course. So you might not have the time to work through the course at a certain point in time in its entirety. So in that instance, you can then pick up from where you resumed, and then it will take you to that next step. So here you can see it is all fully mobile responsive to suit, you know, tablets, suit mobile phones, all that sort of stuff. It is a blend of learning. So you will see videos of Tim and or myself as we work through the content. You will also listen to us along the way as we sort of talk through the relevant information on the slides as well. And in addition to that, you then get access to the workbook, which covers all of this information that we have naturally referenced within those modules too. So there are over 200 pages in the SMSF Essentials course of written material, in addition to the content that we naturally have within these slides. So you can see the breakdown of the content in there. There are activities that you can do either within the activity book here or the workbook, or equally you can go through and do the interaction online that you can see here that will then go through and test your knowledge based upon the relevant topics that we'd spoken about in that previous area. So the idea is you would simply work through the modules at that pace that suits you. And this is where, in essence, we'll be adding in the AI that we were talking about earlier, because it would allow you to deep dive that little bit further if you were just not sure and didn't comprehend, you know, a particular topic that may have been talked about there, or you want to dive into something a little bit further. And on that sense, you can see in here, we also, in addition to the resource of the workbook, we're then adding in all the relevant links and references. So to tax determinations and rulings, ATO guidance, other references that we deem relevant, and in some instances, abbreviations and glossary of terms and those sorts of things too. So very comprehensive in terms of what you can access, help you to understand all of those relevant issues. And then once you have finished that particular module, you would then in essence go in and complete that CPD assessment and then move on to the next module. The assessments are done in a way whereby we've created, in this instance, 8 questions that you must answer at an 80% success rate. You would have a 15-minute time frame. It doesn't mean that we've just got 8 questions in there. We've got probably the best part of 13 or 14. No, not 9, Tim. We have a pool, in essence, is what we're saying, so that you don't end up with the answers and then literally move along to the next time again. So yes, we do know that people sometimes need to go back and do these things again. So you have a couple of attempts. Occasionally, David will get a phone call or an email saying, can you give me another chance, please? We don't simply lock you out. We'll just make sure you understand that you've gone through it properly, and then we'll give you that access to go back and have another crack at it at that point in time. So once you get through the completion of that course, then what you will get is, as you can see at the top of mine, it then says you can access your CPD certificate, and it will have all the information on it about the completion, the authorization code that we have with the SMSF Association, and so forth. And that will allow you to then utilize that obviously for your own CPD as well. We also have things like our change logs. So if you want to know what has changed from different points in time, from say an update in 2021 to 2022 to 2023, we have that in our knowledge base for you to go and access again and find out about, you know, some of the relevant changes that have been added in as part of the updates that have been made. And the other thing I should say as part of the knowledge base, which you can see here, is that we have created a comprehensive user guide. So the user guide, with a lot of the things that I've been talking about today, outlines all of this information in here for you. And then the user guide, actually, I've got the wrong one there. We actually want the user guide. It is all searchable. So the SMSF Foundations Course user guide. And then what you can see in here is that it goes through the entire process for you to make sure that you've got your login, that you know how to access it, the fact that we give you an opportunity to choose whether you want to be self-paced or send me a reminder along the way, how you would log in, access via the Smarter SMSF platform, takes you over to our learning platform here, and then in essence, follow the bouncing ball to be able to access that particular content. So you get a comprehensive guide here to assist you work through the navigation, and subject to what screen you might have, there's different navigations that you might see and how you can work through those. And as I said before, David would be able to help you with any questions that you might have as you go along, to make sure you get the most out of the course. So then the other side of things here, so again, I'll just close some of this down, is that we then have our, close that one, our SMSF Foundations course. And this is something that Tim and I have been working on in recent times, and we are close now to launching, so finalizing the content. But we wanted to share with you today a little bit about how we've built this, and because it is slightly different to what we've done with our Essentials course. So Tim, I'm going to jump into our module 2 here. And I guess the first thing that is different, let alone that the cover page or the first slide here looks different, but we have not only made you a character, made you a bit happier there in terms of how you deliver education. We're not getting your mouth to talk there, no. But the characters into this to try and simplify the learning outcomes for students that work through the Foundations course.
Yeah, so I felt that a big part of the learning stage, certainly for the introduction to self-managed super, was to try to be able to identify, and one of the I guess, key messages that we've got out of the work that we've done this year through our SMSF Day and then our masterclasses was that by creating a case study, it certainly made almost like the whole follow the bouncing ball element of learning. And so, by introducing some like a family element to our SMSF Foundations course, it gives that consistency through the 6 modules, where we can look at both, from the establishment stage through to contributions, paying benefits, and then the estate planning side of things. We can keep it consistency. We can consistent, and we can, recognize the issues associated with each of the family members as such, or with each of the characters. So yeah, it's just really a way to tell a story and to make the learning process also a little bit of a storytelling process.
Yep.
For students as they venture through the Foundations course.
Yeah, so we're looking at different interactivities that go through and help to understand things like the life cycle here that you can see in the different phases of that. But then as we work through the relevant topics here, again, you might hear from Tim as we work through this. So you're getting both in real form and in character form. And then the other part to this is when we go in and look at the relevant activities, we are aligning it back to the characters that we've established for the benefit of this course. So yeah, we have a real sense of let's keep this consistent. I know we can fall into the trap when we do a lot of training that we use various different examples, and it's really just to highlight concepts. But I think, Tim, we can sometimes even confuse ourselves, let alone the audience, when we actually use different names and different people. Whereas if we get a bit of a common theme through this, there's a real sense of adoption to the journey that the user's ultimately on, because they can buy in on the story that we're actually taking them through on all 6 modules, so that they get themselves up to the standard that we want to through the completion of the Foundations course.
Yeah, that's right. And look, and ultimately that's the purpose behind it. It's then they can in conversation with us, they say, oh look, I recognize that Sam did this, but why did Sam then do that, or whatever the case may be, or why was Sam eligible for this but not eligible for that, and we can then go, okay, well, we're talking about Sam. He's 35 years of age. These are all the things that apply, and we can put some real life scenario around it.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's probably the key difference here. But what you will have seen is that there is interaction in it. So the validation of learning here is still the same. We still have modules with workbooks in it. So again, it's understanding the different ways in which people learn is crucial. I'm a far more visual person, so I get a greater kick out of learning from the slides and the interactions that we see in front of it. But we recognize that other people are better readers, and they like to simply come in and read the content in here, and they'll get more value out of that than coming in and using the interactions that would be available in here and listening to the audio and stuff that comes with it. And again, within here, there are, in addition to the workbook, we've got those glossary of terms. We've got certain rulings where we would see it to be relevant, but there's a greater focus here around, say, just general ATO references, Tim, because again, the level that this is being pitched at is far more suited to the content that the ATO may have on the site, as opposed to the legal context of things that we might see within a SMSF ruling or a tax ruling.
Yeah, and I think that was it. That was important for us, is to say, okay, well, here's all this information we've provided to you. Here's also a reference from the regulator to show that the information that we're doing is ultimately expanding on a lot of their information as well. And you can utilize these tools side by side, but you can learn about this without having to know the complex definition of what a contribution is, because somebody put it in a court case from 1978 or something like that. It's not necessarily relevant to the early learning stages.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we've done it in a way whereby for the completion of the course, We then have that assessment that sits within there, and the individuals can go through and then complete the quiz. There's Tim again. You'll see Tim a lot in this Foundations module. And again, we've got that frameworks, but it's not as, again, less questions, but the similar sort of pass marks and stuff that are required there. And it will validate straight after, and then allow you to obviously move on to that next assessment or next module, I should say, after that completion. So that's a bit of a sneak peek, like I said, into our Foundations course. We are going through that process now of starting to upload some of that additional content into here. Wanted to just share with you what that looks like, and obviously the differences in the outcomes, in the learning outcomes, and then some of the benefits that you get that we've negotiated as part of the affiliate and associate memberships with the SMSF Association. So if we jump back to our slides here, the other thing that's worth noting is we do have a number of organizations whereby rather than actually accessing this content via our website, as we've shown you there, this content is fully what we call SCORM compliant, or is eligible to be embedded into external learning management systems. So we know much larger organizations that have the tens or hundreds or even thousands of staff members will have their own learning management systems that deal with internal policies and training and so forth. So one of the things that we're able to do with these courses is give access to those organizations through a license agreement to be able to utilize this course content, so we could use that in plural now, so that they can track and control progress internally. So for firms that have multiple staff going through, so we do have examples where there might be 8 employees that are registered through this. David does run reports and can send those reports out on a fortnightly or monthly basis as people sort of progress through. But in this instance, what we would be doing is simply providing the SCORM file or the files back into that learning management system, into the primary contact, and maintaining that currency of content under that licensing agreement. So again, we have the multiple models here that again go back to the theme that I spoke about earlier, which is all around delivering cost-effective and scalable education solutions within the SMSF industry. Then I guess from what you've seen today, there are some key benefits that you naturally get out of the course. So you have the benefit of tapping into the heads of both Tim and myself, the fact that we regularly are delivering content, keeping up to date, being engaged in policy-based discussion, regulatory-based discussion in the industry, the fact that it is flexible in its learning, it's self-paced in an e-learning environment, it's mobile responsive in terms of whether you're on the train and you just want to watch it, you're at home and you want to look at a laptop, or you want to put it up on a screen in an office. That is all capable of being achieved through the way in which we've done that. We have assistance throughout it, so you can ask questions, you can log tickets to be able to validate through our support process. And then, as I touched on before, we're going to be advancing this further with some AI as we move into 2024. And again, we have CPD that can be attached to this as well. The feedback that we've got so far around our previous courses have been really positive, but quite profound, because in talking to some of these, in particular, some of the enterprise sort of clients that we've had, the reality is that the fast tracking of knowledge is quite significant. So you can see a quote here that Doug Ballard said, who runs support at BGL, who actually use this under license with us through their BGL learning channel. The acceleration of the student is actually quite significant, where they're about a month ahead of where they were previously through the introduction of our SMSF Foundations course at that point in time. And on the flip side, it's the opportunity cost. So it's all about time and money, ultimately comes back to, because it's the fact that if you bring on a new team member, you actually then have to get these team members trained up. So there's an opportunity cost of bringing the team members in but then having managers or others actually having to come in and educate them and get them up to speed. So we're trying to do the shift from the managers being the educators to actually playing a mentor role and actually giving them their time back. And we've measured this to be somewhere around $4,000 to $6,000 with our Essentials course, based on that 18 to 20 hours of education there. So it then focuses on the on-the-job training to apply the skills from the course content that Tim and I are teaching those particular students. It gives them more autonomy for them to learn and develop, rather than simply coming back to you and saying, can you tell me how this works? Can you tell me how this works? And therefore, as a manager, you're then coming in just to help fill the gaps and ensure that that on-the-job knowledge really gets them set up for success. And again, what we then see is the complementary CPD packages that further enhance that knowledge. So the ability to tap into our CPD regular subscription, where we do our changing face of SMSFs on a quarterly basis, or we're doing our masterclass events and those sort of things, which again is about helping to grow that SMSF knowledge. Tim, I don't know whether you wanted to add anything to any of those.
Oh no, I think you've covered most of it off pretty well there, and I think probably, you know, the one thing that I take and have said in a number of conversations that we've had, you know, it really takes me back to my first couple of years in the SMSF space, where we used to sit around the room with the folders and flip from page to page as a company group learning, and then occasionally we'd get that person from that organization to come in and have a bit of a conversation about what we'd just read. Well, this is just simplifying that process.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of where we're at, we are at the point now of, as I said, getting close to the launch of our Foundations course, the fact that we've kind of tidied up some of the relationship things that we've been negotiating with the SMSF Association, the rebadging of our Essentials course as well, that you can see that we've highlighted today. And much of our focus as we move into 2024 will be about those development of the modules in our advanced course, and then moving that from kind of individual items into a collective around the advanced course as well. So yeah, so we are, I guess, really excited about where we're tracking with this. And I guess the other part that we're interested in tracking on is, as I said, this sort of AI stuff that we're working on. And this is naturally applying with our education content, but is also going to be applying to our document content as well. So the concept here that I just wanted to explain is that it will enable you to be asking questions of the GPT here, and it will then elaborate on that based upon the information that we are feeding into it. Okay, so that is a key point here. We're not only looking at what ChatGPT-4 might be sort of feeding back to you, but we are teaching it the relevancy around the SMSF content, because we are uploading our own content in it. Not only that course content, we're uploading into it other references like our changing face of SMSFs and so forth, so that the answers that we're getting are going to be quite sufficient. And I know, Tim, when I first showed you this, you were somewhat skeptical, and you were probably thinking I was just going to send you some details about what's the current concessional contribution cap, but you were quite surprised by the outcomes that we're able to derive with this.
Well, yeah, I think they call that protecting my turf, Aaron, and it was more that you know, I haven't really, I've never been fully over the top of what AI really meant in this space, and so to be able to watch it and watch how it interacts with our material, but also, you know, we've utilized it for other purposes as well. I was staggered and can see the benefit of where it's going to help us and save us some time, but also provide students, particularly, with that opportunity that you know, rather than flicking back over the 200 odd pages that you talk about, to potentially be able to punch in a question and have the references brought up straight away, I think is just fantastic.
Yeah. So we're looking at this, as I said, from the course content, We're actually doing some work with this around our documents as well. And then this will naturally then play a role in ongoing support that sits within our membership as well. So yeah, just something that myself and Tim and our web development team are doing a bit of work on at the moment. And yeah, we'll be rolling some stuff out early in the new year on our new document platform, and then our course content will follow shortly thereafter as well. So that's pretty much it. That takes us through to the end of today's session. As I said, it was all about just giving you a bit of insight into the changes that we've made, not only in our existing course, but the introduction of our new SMSF Foundations course. If you do have interest in any of those products, please feel free to get in contact with us. You can see myself and Tim and David's details there. Give us a call, drop us an email. I'll be more than happy to have a discussion on any of those, whether it's done on an individual basis or whether you're even looking at an enterprise solution. So thank you, Tim, for joining me today.
No worries, Aaron. Always a pleasure.
Excellent. Well, have a great Christmas as well, everyone. And yeah, I guess we'll literally now see you in 2024.
Excellent.
Take care. Bye for now.
Bye.